First and foremost, today is September 10th, 2020. It is Thursday. We are going to do a double lesson today. And the reason I tell you that is because we have the ability to see how long you are on the website for Schools PLP. So yes, yesterday when I was going through your lesson concerning formal and informal, I noticed that most of you were on for about a half an hour, which that's a normal length of time if you're going to read through and then do each question, with a little bit of thought, which that's perfect. 30 minutes is great. The problem I have is when people were not registering, but they finished the assignment, so they were done so quick that it didn't register, or they were on there for about a minute. I know as an individual who can read at a pretty good level, I know that, I don't have access to the waiting room now.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
not letting me let him in. Oh, wait, there it goes.
Okay, there we go. Sweet. Sometimes if you press it, there's a lag. As I look at that, and if not you specifically, but you generically, if you are only in the Schools PLP website and you completed the assignment, but you're only in there for a minute, there is no way that you could have read through the material as a refresher. No way you could have read the questions in a thoughtful manner in order to answer correctly. And the crazy thing is, those who spent roughly 30 minutes in Schools PLP probably got above an 80%. Those who spent less than, let's say, 5 minutes, just to give you guys some, help, less than 5 minutes, probably got less than a 60%. So
let me ask you a question, Mr. Neiman. Are you saying to me that if they read the material, they did well on the assignment, and if they didn't read the material, they didn't do well?
That is exact. I know it's crazy talk. I know. I am going to have to look into causation. Causality is not correlation. Correlation is not causation. I'm going to have to look into that. But I honestly believe, as you state, the more they read and the more they understand and the more they take their time, the better they do. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I was about to say that. I was about to bring that back. But I'll say this as well. I'll say the fact that if you hear me saying that today, then you need to really focus in on today's lesson and take your time. Understand that we will do everything in our power to help you. I have office hours, 45 minutes, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I have office hours for an hour and 15 minutes, I do believe. No, 45 minutes. 45 minutes on Wednesdays. I would say a handful of students have taken advantage of those office times. And do you realize when they come in, they're uncertain, but they spend that time learning it. And when they leave, not only are they certain of it, they can teach me. So that kind of attention, that kind of focus, that kind of grit, to return back to what we talked about last week, is something that will take you far, not only in this class, but in your other classes, through high school and on through life, whether it's through the workforce, the military, or some type of entrepreneurship that you need. So with that in mind, today we are going to be going over 4 things. Well, it's more than 4, but we're going to put them in 4 categories. Hyphens, dashes, apostrophes, and quotation marks. And then we're going to move on to parentheses, brackets, and ellipses. I may have forgotten something. No, yeah, I forgot apostrophe, quotation marks.
It's just fun to say ellipses, that's all.
Yeah, well, I love saying that. I forgot quotation marks on the board, but we'll get to that. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to screen share when I get towards the end anyway, so this is going to work out well. What I'm going to talk about is, the first thing I'm going to mention is the difference between a dash and a hyphen. Although there is a difference, it is very similar. As I went through this, it's very similar to the difference between an uppercase C and a lowercase c, an uppercase S and a lowercase s, an uppercase O and a lowercase o. One's bigger. That's it. Now, how they function could be different. So today we're going to be talking about hyphens, and here's what I've done. I have placed some stuff on the board concerning hyphens. Now, some of you guys might recognize this when I do this. It combines two words. So you have one word and then another word, and what it does is it sort of bridges a gap and it makes a new word. So here we go. You guys have all seen this word, login. That is actually a hyphenated word. Another thing, some of you are doing self-guided learning. That would be a verb, self-guided learning. No, an adverb that gets a hyphen. So what we've done, an x-ray is another one. We've taken two words and we've placed something in it that creates its own meaning. The word self has a meaning. The word guided has a meaning. And we've combined them with the hyphen in order to create a new word. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to jog your memory and I'm going to set my timer. I've got my clock up here. I'm going to set my timer for 30 seconds. And right now in the chat, I don't care if you open a new tab, look up Google. What I want you to do is come up with a word that is a compound word thanks to a hyphen and put it in the chat. And I have to open my chat. That's crazy. Okay, so 30 seconds. When I say go, you'll have 30 seconds to put in a word in the chat that is now hyphenated, but you can't use the ones I used. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, go. Hyphenated word, and I'll hide my video. No, that wouldn't matter. Hyphenated word. Hyphenated. Hyphenated. Not bad. Oh, yes, Alexander. Oh, oops. Yes, good one. Alexander the Great. That was the word. Ooh, we've got them coming. We've got them coming. Remember that those two words have to have a hyphen, or three words in that case. Nice job. Let me give you 20 more seconds. Yes. 20 more seconds. 10 seconds.
Good, Grizz, good.
Excellent. Oh, nice.
Excellent, very good.
These are some great ones. So some of these words have, this is my go-to. That is a great one. Whoever, I'm not going to say any names because I'm recording this session, but the go-to is a great one. This is my go-to. That word would be hyphenated. That is a great job. So you are seeing these words. Hey, blue-green, that's another great one. Anytime we combine colors. So if you're the cool kid, so I only had 8 colors in my box, but if you're the cool kid who had the 64 or the 128 with the crown sharpener, you would notice how many colors are hyphenated. So, and you have those on here. Man, this is a heck of a group. So what I'm going to do is when we finish this, but which we're not even close to done yet, when we finish this, I'm going to go through and write those on my handy dandy notebook, and then I'm going to use those for the next classes. I love these. Oh, these are great. These are great. These are great. Well, hey, great job. So those are hyphens. Now, when you go to School's PLP today, you will see even more words and get even more information on why we hyphenate words. It would take you reading that information though. So just a heads up, you're going to want to read that information. And as an added bonus, it adds to your time that you're in School's PLP when you're reading. So it makes it look like you were in there doing even more. So that's great. Okay, so we said there's a difference between a hyphen and a dash. And guess what? There is a difference between a hyphen and a dash. The hyphens connect words in this way, making a new word. But a dash is used to show an abrupt break in thought. Now, you might be thinking, Mr. Neiman, you are one big abrupt break in thought. You're absolutely correct. I am. So this is what it looks like. And I've written this sentence. Now, I'm not going to ask everybody to write a sentence because that's a long chat. But combining words is okay. But here's a good way to think about this. All student athletes, and I used a hyphenated word there. Good job, Mr. Neiman. All student athletes on or off school property must adhere to school policies. That is a great example of this section being inserted to communicate something that is an abrupt stop in thought, or it pertains to the sentence, but it's just an aside that is added in to heighten the information. So you could technically say all student athletes must adhere to school policies. But the break in thought is a catch-all that states on or off school property. This way it's a fuller understanding of what is being said. So all student athletes dash on or off school property dash must adhere to school policies. And that is what a dash is. So again, I'm not going to ask you to write a sentence with a dash, but I am going to expect you to read carefully and thoroughly in the Schools PLP section when it talks about dashes, because you are going to find that I think they give 2 or 3 examples of how dashes work in sentences, and it will better equip you to answer those questions. Next up, we're going to look at apostrophes, and you are going to see that there is 2 examples there are 2 examples for when you would use apostrophes. So I'm going to come on this side, Blair Witch Project, coming at you, and I'm going to go up. Okay, so the first one that we're going to look at is when it shows possession. Now, most of you guys, this is what you're used to. This isn't the one you're probably most used to, but the next one is. The next one is substitutes for a letter. That's probably what you're most used to, the contraction words. But shows possession. In this case, my dog chewed my son's shoe. The shoe belongs to my son, therefore it shows possession by showing an apostrophe S. I could have said my daughter's shoe, but my son is the one who lost his shoe. So it gives possession to my son. You could say something about the students' desks. You could say that, and you would put an apostrophe after the S. Ultimately, what that apostrophe is doing is showing possession. It's showing that my son is the one who owns the shoes. Now we go to the one you're probably more used to. It substitutes for a letter. And before I show these words, I want you, right now, and since it's only one word, I'll give you 5 seconds to type in, I'll give you 30 seconds when we start, to type in what you know about a contraction when it substitutes a letter. I'll give you one example and I'll put it in the chat. Here we go. Chat. Where'd it go? There we go. Here we go. Boom. There's an example of an apostrophe being used in such a way that it substitutes for a letter. Your job is to type just like I have in the chat and tell me an example of that. Yes, that is the perfect one. Great job. Yep. I'm waiting for, there it is. There it is. Who was that? Nice job. Nice job. That one's kind of funny. So when you're a kid and you're learning these and you see those, yes. Oh yeah, great job. When you're a kid and you see that and you see does, does not, doesn't. Got it. Were, not equals weren't. Got it. Will not must equal willn't. I don't know why it doesn't. Did not, didn't. Yes. Okay, good job, good job, good job. So you guys have those up there, and this is what I wrote. I wrote does not equals doesn't, and then I wrote, which I don't think anybody did. Oh, there it is. Yep. Cannot equals can. Great job. Someone just put that last one in there. So cannot equals can. That is that is exactly what we're doing in that aspect. Now, you might be asking yourself, Mr. Neiman, why are we going over these things? Because you know what? From probably this coming Monday on, when you answer a question, I know that we have at least covered this material. This way, when you write something that is inconsistent with what we're learning, I can say, hey, you remember those first 2 weeks when we went over grit, when we went over apostrophes? or we went over hyphens or dashes, that's why it matters. Right here is why it matters. So here we go. I'm going to screen share because now I know how to do that. It's all about screen sharing. It's all about screen sharing. First, I have to get in here, preview. So I'm learning as I go. I'm building the plane as I'm flying. That might be my favorite analogy, Ms. Thompson. That is a great one.
Because you can hear the screaming in your head.
That's right. That is absolutely right. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I say again, I'm going to share my screen. There we go. All right, here we go. Share. Let you know which screen I want to share. Share.
You have to take back.
Oh yeah, I do have to. I think you have to relinquish it. Or do I have to? You might have to relinquish that. Close my chat.
I've never done that, and I've been the host before.
That's weird. Speaker, participants, rename. No, I don't have the ability to be the host.
Let's see.
Oh, reclaim host at very bottom. You got to read through the whole thing. There it is. I now have the host.
Okay, good.
There we go. Here we go. We're learning. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. Here we go. All right. Here comes your screen share. This is in Schools PLP. It's lesson 7. And it deals with hyphens, apostrophes, quotation marks, parentheses, brackets, and ellipses. Ellipses. That word is ellipses. Hyphens, dashes, apostrophes. Here comes quotation marks. Now, the element of quotation marks is you're going to notice that it shows a direct quote. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is it's used to offset direct quotes, which we're going to find in this section right here. And I'm going to make note of this last sentence. To neglect to cite something that is not your own work is what is called plagiarism. Plagiarism has serious consequences. And as we go through, I'll tell you the quick story for me. We had a kid in school who turned in work in college. We never saw him in college again. I don't know if he just decided to drop out because he got in trouble or they told him, hey, it's best if you drop out. But I know this, we never saw him again, and he definitely plagiarized. So it's got big consequences. And as we move forward, you're gonna have to remember that if it's not your words, you're going to have to use quotation marks. Last but certainly not least, used to offset a name or a small work of published work in a group that are published in a group. Something like Stardust right here. The Three Billy Goats Gruff, which is a book of fairy tales. It's a collection. The ultimate thing is we have to recognize that if it's a work by someone else or if it's a quote by someone else, we have to put those in quotation marks. So those are quotation marks, and there's some work that you're going to do, but don't do it yet. I highly recommend you not doing it yet. Let's scroll down to parentheses, brackets, and ellipses. And this is where we get into what are these things? Well, first and foremost, the idea of parentheses, it's a form of punctuation marks often used to set off words and explain or better define another word. So as we see as an example, Calcutta, which is formerly known as Calcutta, is the capital of West Bengal. So that acts as a way to reference something that is important to the reader. Similarly, when we talk about soldiers going AWOL, if you wanted to say in a sentence, a soldier went AWOL, AWOL, but then in parentheses, you might say something like absent without leave. That is the definition of AWOL. If somebody doesn't know what AWOL is, you've now told them what that means, and then it just goes from there. Similarly, we look down here and we see, and here's a quick 24-second video. It says Annie Oakley. Now you might be asking yourself, well, who's Annie Oakley and is that her real name? Well, it just so happens, parenthetically, they tell you her real name was Phoebe Ann Mosey. There you go. Was a talented sharpshooter and performed in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. That little statement right there that says her real name was Phoebe Ann Mosey is something that goes in parentheses that talks about what goes before it. That's simple stuff, but you're going to notice it and you're going to think to yourself, well, why do they do that? Well, there's a reason they do that. It's to inform the reader of what they're looking at. Next up are brackets. So we've gone over parentheses. Now we're over brackets. Brackets may be used to enclose some information that you're inserting into a quotation for clarity. Now this is huge. The next two are huge when we get into our own writing. You guys did 7 sentences for Angela Duckworth's Grit. When we write and we write more, you're going to have to know this idea. So the idea is you're writing to, according to Smith, who wrote this in 2008, people need the emotional boost to get motivated. And then they add something that gives more clarity, which is in the workforce. Although they only gave what appears to be 9 words, people need the emotional boost to get motivated, they want to give more clarification and context to where that quote came from, and they do so by saying in brackets, in the workforce. Another example of that is Oregon is actually translated from the French word ouragan, meaning hurricane, which refers to the Columbia River. There you go. So when you see this type of thing, it's adding clarity that you're offering. You as the writer are offering. So that's good information to have. Now, here's where we're going to use this probably in early December, and we're going to use it again in January and February. Very important things right here concerning brackets and ellipses. And we'll come back to it, we'll revisit, but I want to go over it now. So if you see in the example, the rule states, and then they use quotation marks to state the rule, all organizations must keep track of excess overtime, ... as well as documentation of timesheets. That ... is a whole host of other things, but they took out so they didn't have to copy down the entire quote. But at the same time, it shortens their sentence. By taking out all that information that doesn't really matter as much to this quote, there you go. So, and then similarly, I should say, employees must honor the minimum wage requirement, ... Their main emphasis is the fact that employers must honor the minimum wage requirement. So if you go for a job next year when you turn 15 or whenever you turn 15 and they say, yeah, we want to pay you $1 an hour. Well, they're the employer and they're not honoring the minimum wage requirement. That is the main point that they're trying to make. Now, that sentence goes on and says other stuff, but that's not the stuff we need, so they put in the ellipses. There you go. And then as you'll notice, there is more to this. One thing I'm going to mention. Oh, there you go. One thing I'm going to mention is these will be due tomorrow night. All of these assignments. But if you take your time, you can do it right. Let's stop our Zoom share. Let's get back. Let me open my chat. There's 2. Okay. Yes, good. So here we go. You've been given, which is a lot. Trust me, I know. Basically 7 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 things. 7 pieces of information that deal with hyphens, dashes, apostrophes, quotation marks, and then parentheses, brackets, and ellipses. That's a lot of information. But what I'm asking that you take the examples that we gave and try to combine them with the examples that the school's PLP give. This way you can do the assignment. Ultimately, do not, and I need you to pay attention right now. Hey, pay attention. Do not just select letters or type something in. Don't do that. If you sense yourself not understanding a question, stop, write down what you believe to be the most concise way to ask your question, and visit us during office hours. Because I have found the students that come in, I mentioned this earlier, the students that come in questioning usually leave being able to communicate in an effective manner. And that is what we need. And all it takes is just a little bit of time. And when I say a little bit of time, the young lady who was with me yesterday was only in there for a minute and like 10 seconds. So you guys are capable, yes, but number 2, you have to take the time necessary. So Ms. Thompson has asked that certain students remain. If you feel like you want to just get into it and read it yourself, you may leave the Zoom session, go straight to school's PLP, do your attendance, and you may do that now. If you have questions, you may stay back and put them in the chat. By all means, stick around.
Mr. Neiman,
Yes.
have you done breakout rooms yet?
No,
Never done?
look at me learning.